Hey everybody, we're going to get rolling here in just a couple minutes, waiting for a couple people. We got a late notification on this one, so hey Kendra, just having a couple of people join us. I'm going to get a few things set up here. Hopefully everybody was somewhat short today in the marketplace. If you weren't, I'm sorry. Hopefully you took your profits. If not, we will see what happens tomorrow. I'm going to get us here on the dashboard and here. Cool. We're going to be talking about some things I've talked about in the past, but not in the context that I get to talk about them today. In fact, let me just share this screen this way so it's a little bit nicer. Like so. There we go. Much better. Much better. All right, so we're going to talk about the Augusta rule. We're going to talk about incorporation. We're going to talk about why that's important, why it's not just important, it's the only way anybody should be trading because of the taxes that are happening. Then, if you are looking for funding, banks are not going to give you money. I just went through a process myself with my own FICO score, trying to get them to give me personally money. Nah, they don't want to do that. They will give my company money, though, all day long. I just got a $5,000 Exxon card because I had set my company up correctly, and they were like, "Wow, you've got trade lines that are great. We want to help you. Here's some money," which was super nice. Let me check here on this. Is this working the way we want it to? Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how to apply the specific rules of the Internal Revenue Service to we as folks who have incorporated, and we who as folks have funding, we who as folks have some real estate that we live in, and then I'm going to answer some questions. I'm going to show you how we can get our own funding if you want to apply it to trading, to real estate, to we have shop. We just set somebody else up with a Shopify store today. Um, uh, we got another person. How much did they make? $20,000 in funding yesterday. And once you incorporate and have an appropriate structure, not just a silly LLC or an S corp, but something that's an appropriate incorporation, there's a lot of things that you can do that nothing else will let you do. Not trusts, not foundations, and there's a place for everything. I mean, we know that. But I do want to expose some hidden stuff in the tax code, which is pretty cool. Now, I want to show it to you directly, just so you guys know that I ain't making this stuff up. So let's go to IRS, IRC. I believe it's title 208, Internal Revenue. I never remember the link. Code. IRS.gov. It's Title 26 under the internal or the federal regulations. We want to see 280, and this is the way you can search. You know, everybody gets scared, real scared when they got to look at the law. But Jefferson was the one who said, "Listen, if you don't know the law and are well disposed to use it, you got problems." And in fact, people get that quote wrong. They say that, people should know the law and well disposed to use it. But what he says before is, this democracy will work if the people know the law and are well disposed to use it. Else, tyranny will reign. Now, I doubt any of you, well, maybe Carrie Mack, because she's been on a lot of my calls, have been to Title 26, which is, you can't see. Well, here. Now you can. Here, I'll move this over. Cornell Law is a lovely, lovely resource for finding out the code. There's nothing hidden here. This is when the code. When the IRS says, "How dare you? You broke the law," and they quote it, you look it up right here and find out if they're right. And sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're misinterpreting it, and you get to go fire it right back. Well, we're looking for section 280. There's lots of sections, so we know we go to subtitle A because it says section 1 through 1500. So that's a good place to start. We're looking for 280, 1 to 1400 Z. That's a good place to start. Go. 280, 280, 280. This looks like here, computation of taxable income. Sounds like we're getting close. 280, 280, 280. 288, 261 to 280 hotel. That sounds good. Items not deductible. Let's see what happens here. 280, 280, 280G, golden parachutes. Is it 280? Maybe I'm losing my mind. Maybe it's 208. My dyslexia. Oh, no, here it is, 280 alpha. There it is, disallowance of certain expenses. Now, there's a lot of stuff in here, but it's in really pretty plain English, y'all. Now, I know this is not very exciting, but I'm going to show this to you just so you can see I'm not making this stuff up. General rule, and it's pretty self-explanatory, not too much legalese. They had to make it pretty clear. But we're going to scroll down to where we start seeing some things that make sense. Now, I'm pretty sure it's G, Part G, if I remember right. Special for certain rental use. There it is, Part G. Special rule for certain rental use. Now, what is this talking about? It's talking about property. So if you own a house, and it says, notwithstanding, legal term for unless basically any other part of this section, unless it says otherwise in any part of this whole 183 section, which it doesn't. If your house, and a dwelling, by the way, is meant that you live in it, or it is a thing where you could live, like your vacation home. It also includes your boat. What? If your house is used during the year by you as a residence, we just said that, and such house is actually rented. Now, rented, remember, you were living in it. We're like, well, how am I renting my house if I live in it? Well, hold on. Rent for less than 15 days, so 14 days a year. So that means this is not a bed and breakfast. It's not an Airbnb. You don't have somebody in the basement renting. No, you and your family or whoever, your roommates, renting. Sorry, owning, living, not renting. Owning, living, your house. Could be your boat, could be your vacation home, could be your single family residence, could be a duplex as long as you're not renting the other unit. Your grandma lives in it, whatever. Fine. Then, no, so you can't take any of the other deductions that you would get in a dwelling of that unit, like the interest on your loan. You can't do that. But you're going to see why this is so much better than taking the silly interest on your loan, which, by the way, if you're past 4 or 5 years of paying interest on your loan, then you're not paying a whole lot of interest. Check this. The income that you got from you renting out your house for 14 days during the year, it's hard to believe, but here it is, shall not be included in your income on your tax form. In fact, we don't want to see it. If you send it to us, we got to make you redo your tax forms. Don't send us this income. We don't want to hear about it. We don't want to know about it. Don't tell your accountant about it. It's free income to you. Now, if you can believe this, if this shocks you, if you're like, what? That can't be. Put an exclamation point in the chat box. If you're like, come on, your head's blown. You're like, what? And I want you to notice nowhere, and this is it, by the way. There's no special anything else. It's just G, and that's it. There's nothing else underneath it. That's the end of the chapter. They stick it at the end, just so you might miss it, because it's for the rich folks, y'all. This is a 1%er ruling right here. They don't want the great unwashed like us. Like nobody's had their head blown off. Kendra, you knew this? This is no big deal to you? Okay, just me that's excited. Well, I'll be excited. This is a 1%er secret. And it's like, well, nowhere in here does it say, hey, you can only rent your house out for $50 a night. It also doesn't say anywhere in here, you can only rent it to 3 people a year. You can rent it to anybody you want, any division of those 14 days. It doesn't have to be 14 in a row. It could be 2 every other quarter. It could be 3 every quarter. Whatever that is, as long as it's not more than 14. And you can charge anything you want. Now, you probably don't want to charge something that's ridiculous. But that's what's available. Now, that's the tax code. I'm not making this up. You guys can all go look for it for yourself. I can definitely tell you that I'm not a tax advisor, And I can tell you that that is the law. I just showed it to you. Okay, that's the law. Now some of you are like, so what? How does this apply? Okay, nobody cares. It's just me. No one has exclamation points. Amazing. That's all right. You'll get excited in a minute. Maybe you can't see it yet. That's okay. Some of you are going to pop here in a minute. Some of you don't own a house, and that's fair. If you're renting, you got to own it. It has to be a house in which you own. That's called the dwelling. It has to be something that you own. Now, you could probably get away with a sublet, but it's going to be hard under scrutiny. If you got an audit, that's going to be hard. But if you own a boat where people can stay, a vacation home, anything. It can be the one bedroom, one bath little shack you've got in Memphis that you're not renting. It's just sitting there. If you never rent it more than 14 days a year, it works. So what do we have to do? Why does this matter? And why are we talking about this? Since I want to get funding and I know I need to incorporate. Well, because they don't tell you, as always, the IRS doesn't tell you the whole story. I'm going to tell you the whole story, and then it will all start making sense. So what do we got to do? Well, here's what we got to do. We need to have some kind of corporation. It could be an LLC, but I don't recommend an LLC by itself. I recommend that you are doing this from a parent company that owns an LLC. This parent company, the C Corporation, is where you hold all of your big assets for your family when you pass, or your friends, if that's okay for you. Because the C Corp is going to last for hundreds of years, as opposed to a trust or an LLC, which doesn't. The C Corp will last long, long after your great-great-grandkids are gone. And that's why we want to store our family assets in a C Corp, I believe, for me. Because then I can pass them on and there's no taxing, there's no government involvement, there's no nothing. It just moves on to different members and different managers who then control the assets. So I want to put my family members, all of my family members, in the C Corp anyway, so that they can materially participate in whatever assets I may acquire and put in the C Corp. So if I've got, let's say, 5 family members in my C Corp, who's that? Well, it's my brother, it's my son, it's my mom, it's my dad, and it's my sister-in-law. All right, there's 5. I got a C Corp. What can I charge them? Remember, it didn't say anything. It said nowhere what I could charge. I could charge anything I want. So let's say reasonable $400 a night. I mean, that sounds maybe like who's paying $400 a night for my place? Well, I don't know. But I know that that's a pretty reasonable number if they're staying on your property and you've kept it nice. And you're like, well, why are they coming to my house in the first place? Dude, who cares? It's a company meeting. Who's in your company? Your family. Company meeting every quarter. Come hang out. We'll jump in the pool. We'll spend a weekend together, a long weekend. There's at least one long weekend in every quarter. And you can have them over, have some barbecue, talk about family planning. I mean, how many of you could benefit from spending 2 or 3 hours on a weekend with the whole family talking about building the generational wealth of your family? All of you together. The family corporate, the corporate net worth of the family. Any of you have that happen? Where you're talking, the whole family's going, not just you and your kids and your husband and wife, you and the grandparents and the sisters and the brothers, you have a financial sobriety conversation. How are we doing? Dude, if you did that every quarter, just that, forget everything I'm talking about, and you have that kind of communication, and then someone in there goes, hey, you guys that have 685 FICO or better, you need to come talk to my friends at Legacy Ascending because you can get 0% loan funding for your business, which you all should have set up, and they can help you do it for free, your LLC, for up to $100,000. And we know as a family, if you did it, and you did it, and you did it, and you did it, that's $500,000. That's $500,000. We could go buy an apartment complex with that, and cash flow, whatever that is, create our generational wealth, put it in the family C Corp, deduct. It goes on and on. If you had a family conversation. So why wouldn't you want to have a little family get together every quarter? And is everybody seeing this? If you understand what I'm saying, if you're kind of starting to see the light, put a 1 in the chat box because the light is about to get a lot brighter. A lot brighter. So let's say you charged everybody $400 a night. You're like, nobody's going to pay $400 a night. Well, hold on. All right, Kendra, thank you. Hold on. Kendra, Cammie's got it. All right, we're starting to see the light. It's going to get brighter. $400 a night. You're like, no one's paying that. Well, don't Just relax. So there's 5 of y'all, $400 a night. That's $2,000 a night. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Carrie. $2,000 a night. How many nights we could do? Up to 14. Do you have to do 14? No, you could do one. Can you do 15? Sure, but that last 15 doesn't count. The last one doesn't count. Actually, no, I'm wrong. You can only do 14. If you do 15, the whole thing's blown up. So could they stay an extra night? Yes, but you can't charge them rent for it. Who cares? That's fine. 14 nights a year, that's $28,000 tax-free to you. To you, Cammie. You at your house. You just made $28,000. The IRS we saw doesn't want to see it. They don't. Please don't. Don't tell your accountant. It's okay to not tell them. That's your money. Can you believe that? These are just hard numbers, you guys. Simple arithmetic. You saw the code. It said, listen, if you want to get together and have a family meeting where you're creating generational wealth ideas and maybe bringing in friends and family and experts to come stay with you, to come do a lecture for an afternoon and leave to help the whole family, free money. It gets better. You guys are starting to see a brighter light now. Watch this. You all are paying 30% tax, give or take. I'm not counting your state tax. Some of you are in no state tax states. Good for you. But if you're in California, this is like 40. But let's say it were 30. This number that you didn't pay tax on means you just made $8,400 in taxes that you didn't have to make. Now, for some of you, you know our incorporation is not free to get the C Corp and the LLC. And you're like, wow, that's a lot of money. Not if you're doing this, y'all. You literally are going to make $28,000 tax-free, which means you're saving $8,400, which is more than double almost triple what the price is of our incorporation. Besides the fact, if you get funding, you can pay for it with that. Keep going. C Corp, the thing that, and you're like, well, who's paying for this, by the way? It all sounds great, but wait a minute, where did that $28,000 come from? Well, the C Corp got it. The C Corp paid for it. You're like, well, where'd that money come from? Well, that's us helping you and your family and maybe your own business build $28,000, ideally more than that, income. But the problem with making income is what? You have to pay tax. And if you're doing it on your social slave number, you're going to pay 30%. Well, corporations don't pay 30%. They pay at maximum 21% as of right now. They just reduced that tax rate by 0.5%, which is nice, which should also show you which side the bread is buttered on, social slaves or corporate. They raise the tax for social slaves and reduce the tax for companies. So your company is going to make $28,000, probably more if you structured it right, if you're doing the right kind of business, if you're trading or you're doing real estate or you're working with us at Legacy Ascending, as an affiliate, whatever. You're going to make $28,000 because the C Corp, as a benefit to its members, will gladly pay the $400 a night for you and the members of the company to have these financial weekends. Doesn't that make sense? The C Corp is the one benefiting. Why wouldn't it pay out of its income to do so? And you're like, well, okay. Well, let's say I made $28,000 on the rise in Bitcoin to come here in October, November, December, which we're planning on. Maybe I've already shorted it for August, September, so I'm way up. Maybe I've made my $28,000 already. Maybe I've got a Shopify store that I know in 3 months is going to be paying me $5,000 to $30,000 a month. Okay. I know I'm going to have this money, and I know I want my family. I know I want us to all meet and make goals and communally come together. Great. Well, that's cool. Then the company is benefiting. So the company has every right, from a company standpoint, to pay for you to stay together in your corporate conference. Does it matter that it's at your house? No. Could we do it at a hotel? Of course. Would the C Corp write off a stay of all of its members at a hotel? Without question. Why wouldn't it write it off to pay you at your house? It would. So let's get this straight, y'all. The company is going to pay you $28,000 if you do this. $400 a night times 5 people, 14 nights a year. You can do 50 people if you want, or $200 a night, or $1,000 a night, whatever you can decide. But I'm using round figures. 14 nights a year, $28,000. The company will pay you. You don't report it. That means you're saving $8,400. Is this commingling? Nope, because it's under a contract. The contract is they're staying at your house. You agree to use your house and clean it up and do all that. After they're done, every quarter if you want, or every 14 days in a row in the summer. Great. Contract, not commingling. You're providing a service. The company pays you. You don't have to report it under the tax code. You just made $8,400 tax, saved yourself $8,400 in tax. And the company deducts it from its income. So if you were trading, your trading tax bracket is 21% for your capital gains. That means you're going to pay whatever it is that $5,880 on taxes for the Bitcoin that you traded in your company and you made $28,000, let's say. Not anymore. Now that's tax-free income to your corporation because you spent it to have a family meeting every quarter or whenever that is, 14 nights a year. So let's get this straight. You made $28,000 tax-free, saved $8,400. The company made $28,000 to pay for it, but it gets to write it off because it paid for your family to be at your house that you got for tax-free. All in, you're up $14,280 in tax-free income. That's the taxes that you just saved that you don't have to pay. I'm not making this up. You guys saw the code. They don't tell you the whole story, though. They tell you that, oh, well, for social slaves, yes, you can make that money. But I'm saying, yes, do that, but do it with the client being your C Corp. Not for somebody else so they can take the write-off. Do it for your C Corp, your company, your family or friends that want to come together 3 days a quarter-ish, plus a couple for 14 nights a year. And write it off. You guys see it? If you understand what I'm talking about, put a 2 in the chat box. If you don't understand, if you're lost, if you're like, man, I don't really get it, put a 0 in the chat box, and we can figure out what's going on there. All right. This is the beginning of generational wealth just from that measly old tax code that everybody hates. There's some winners in the tax code if you have incorporated. So let's get this straight. Did your family members have to pay for any of this? No. Your C Corp did because everybody agreed this is a good idea. The income that came to your C Corp from whatever business you're doing, the money went to, this amount of money anyway, went to paying for the C Corp financial conference, let's say. The C Corp financial conference, the CFC, the CCFC, whatever you want to call it. Then you personally, the house owner, gets the tax write-off. So here's something else to think about. In the C Corp, are you the only one that could do this? For example, is the C Corp limited to 14 nights a year? Is the C Corp limited? In other words, we know that you at your house, and in fact, you, the taxpayer, even if you have multiple houses, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to do, I'm going to do 14 nights here, at my house here, and then I'm going to do 14 nights on the boat, and I'm going to double down. No. I wouldn't do that. Don't be greedy. Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. 14 nights a year, you ought to be able to do some nice money here. But is the C Corp limited to 14 nights? Is the C Corp limited? Well, if you look at the Internal Revenue Code, you'll notice that it is about dwellings. Now, C Corps, we call them corpses. They're dead. They're corpses. They don't do anything. So C Corps don't live. They don't need to dwell. They may have residence, but they don't need dwellings. So a C Corp, theoretically, has no dwelling. Can't. It's dead. Only the members in it. Aha. How many members in it? We said 5. Well, how many houses does this represent? Well, let's say everybody owned a house. That's 5 houses. Let's say there's only 2 houses. Well, that means your C Corp could do this at your house for 14 nights, and then at Josie's house for another 14 nights, for 28 nights. You guys could party all year long at everybody's house if there were 5 members with 5 houses, 5 dwellings. Doesn't have to be a house. Now you're making money hand over fist from the tax code. Well, where does the money come from to pay for this? Well, obviously your C Corp has to make money, which is where we at Legacy Ascending come in and all the ways that we do that. If you were making $20,000 a month with your C Corp or your LLC process with a Spotify store, you think you could do this? Think you could take all the money out of the C Corp and then write it off and then disperse it to the people who own the dwellings? Would that give incentive to people who didn't have dwellings in your family to get a dwelling? I think so. If you're understanding this, put a 1 in the chat box. The power of doing this in incorporation. You can do it on Facebook too. I'm watching y'all. All right, thank you, Cami. Let's keep going. Here's the rules. You got to have a residence. Doesn't have to be a house. It can be a boat. Can't rent it out. It can't be something that, like you said, it can't be a bed and breakfast or an Airbnb or you're renting the basement. Nope. It has to be your true residence, a dwelling. You got to have a company. You could rent it out as a social slave. There's nothing that says you can't. In fact, the Internal Revenue Code says you can. But you can't deduct the money you get. You just get the free money. How much better is it to just use it as a corporate refuge for your company and your family to come and create its own financial wealth? I mean, just the value of being able to build your financial wealth and have family meetings or family and friend or community meetings. You can have your neighbors over. There's no one saying that who has to come over. You could have your neighbors over as advisors to your family who are in the C Corp. Nothing to say that that can't be done. And the C Corp could pay for all of it. You saw how limited that little law was. I mean, it was 3 little sentences. And then, of course, we have to do no more than 14 days a year. If you do more than 14 days a year, the whole year is FUAR. Don't do that. All right. So with that in mind, hopefully, thank you guys. Carrie, Rhonda, Kendra, Kimberly, Cami. Thank you. Okay, I'm glad you're with us. So let me check over here. Okay. So with that in mind, you can see the importance of incorporating. And Teresa, okay, great. Because if you incorporate, you have a lot of access to things like this. You have access to funding through Legacy Ascending. And of course, if you do a Shopify store, I think you're suicidal if you do it in your social slave number, because the money that you have to spend on advertising, the money that you have to spend to set up the Shopify store, as an example, in many ways is not deductible. Many ways. Now, of course, you can file a Schedule C, and you can do all of that, and that's fine. It becomes much more deductible, and you're under that 21% rule. But now you don't have any asset protection. You can't hand your Shopify store if you were to pass, right? You can't hand it over to somebody. In a C Corp with 5 family members, if the C Corp owned your Shopify store, your Amazon store, your mining rig, your churro business, then if you were to pass, however unlikely and terrifying that would be or horrible that would be, nothing changes. In your minutes in your company, it would say, well, if Kimberly should pass, then Carrie, who's her sister, will become a manager and replace her. There's no change in ownership. The C Corp still owns it all. There's no change in tax revenue issues because nobody changed ownership, only control. And that's why Andrew Carnegie said, control everything, own nothing. It's backwards to how they taught us, as everything is that matters. So if you are interested in funding, then we should have that conversation, because you need to have a 685 FICO and at least an LLC, which once you're approved, we can show you how to do that very inexpensively and very easily. The C Corp, this whole situation here where you have a structure, that is more than just what we offer for free. But it's something that I believe is incredibly beneficial all the way around, and creates asset protection, the ability to get corporate credit, the ability to hand down your assets to your kin without government involvement and without taxes, without probate. It also puts you into the Uniform Commercial Code law, so that family court and penal court and civil law don't really get to mess with you. I mean, unless you do some kind of non-compliance thing. The IRS is much, much happier and nicer to you, as you've seen if you're in DCG in my videos that I've done there, where I show you, last week I showed you another letter I got from them, where they're like, yeah, so you still owe us a little money, instead of, how dare you? We're going to nuke your dog. So that's the beauty of doing this. All right, so any questions about this, how to apply it, how you can use it, etc. Because if there's not, I do have time to talk about some kind of super secret ways of dealing with option contracts, which doesn't have anything to do with this at all. But if you're doing options, some of you, your contracts are going to go deep into the money tomorrow. Deep into the money tomorrow. You know what I'm talking about. So, anyway, any questions? Let me check Facebook. All right, I don't see them. Hold on here. Why is everybody having to talk to me right now? Whenever I go live, we need to talk to you. Okay, y'all. So, all right. So I don't see any questions. Lots of ones, which I like. Let's talk options. And I ain't going to get mad if you guys want to hop off. If you want more information about how to get funding and hang out with us at Legacy Ascending, drop me a line in the Facebook, or you can just say in the chat, just put your email, phone you want me to text you to, just put it in the chat here or on the Facebook if you're watching it there, and I'll get in touch with you later today. Options. Some of you are like, that's what I've been waiting for. Options. I'm not going to get into how options work. That's a big subject that I've covered many, many times in my Option Selling 101 class. So here's SPY. Yay, SPY. In fact, I'm going to share in a different way so you can see the calculator. Okay, here's SPY. It was down today. Aww. Some of you are in puts and you're like, some of you are in calls are like, I know. It won't go down forever, y'all. So SPY, here's the contracts for October expiration, the monthly. At the money, right now at close was $384. If you buy, it's going to cost you $1,078. Woohoo! That's some money, baby. That's because implied volatility is way up. The VIX is over 27. That means they're very expensive contracts. All right. With that in mind, a lot of people, what happens is they buy at the money because they, rightly, believe that volume is highest here at the money. So when the price of the underlying moves, the delta, in this case about a 48 delta, will move quickest. And they will get expansion or contraction of the value of their options first before anyone else, which is very true. At the money contracts move the fastest. They usually have the most volume. And we can prove that by looking here. 22,000 contracts, 7,000 contracts. There's some big ones down here in the money. But generally speaking, we are looking here. How about actually, because that's after close. Let's look at open interest. There we go. 23,000, 16, and it kind of falls off as we move away from at the money. This would be also considered at the money, both of these. So you can see, same here on the call side. Look at the difference in the volume, though. How many people are believing it's going up tomorrow versus how many people believe it's going down tomorrow? Not investment advice, just showing you something. So with that in mind, a lot of people buy at the money. For those of you who buy, you know, you're like, well, Mark, you sell. I know, but let's talk about buying. I'm not going to talk about selling, just buying. You buy here and you hold. And as it moves into the money, as the price moves in, it gets more and more and more, and everybody gets excited because not only does the price go up and in your favor, but theta actually goes down. Look at theta going down and down and down and down and down the more you go into the money, which is great. Theta is working against you when you buy. So a lot of people think that's really good. It is very good. But why do we buy options, or sell them for that matter? Why do we buy options? We don't buy them because of theta. We don't buy them because of any ideas around in the money, out of the money, implied volatility, anything like that. We buy for leverage. Leverage. It's the same reason we get a loan or get funding from Legacy Ascending. We get that to leverage the assets that we have so that we can make a lot more. Every contract's worth how many shares? Controls how many shares? Put it in the chat box. How many shares does one contract of options control? Kimberly's got it. 100 shares. Every contract, 100 shares. Kerry Mack, perfectly done. So that means that for $1,078, that's this, times 100, right? 10.78 times 100 is 1,078. I can control the value motion of 100 shares. Now, how much would 100 shares cost me if I were to buy them outright? Well, $384 a share times 100 is $38,000, $38,400. So that's a lot better deal. Notice, though, that you're only getting half the value of the motion. So for every dollar that SPY goes in your favor or against you, you're losing or gaining only $48. Now, if you bought 4,800 real shares, it'd be $100. But there's give and take. Listen, you only paid $1,000 instead of $38,000, so we're going to give up something somewhere. Everybody's good. We all get it. This is what everybody does. They buy at the money. Lots of volume, lots and very little spread, because there's lots of volume. We hope it moves in our favor. We hope that we got, and we hope we have a good take profit, so we're not greedy. But here's the thing. Let's do a little math. We love leverage. Let's look at what the leverage looks like. So that means, let's say SPY moved in our favor $10, which would be awesome. Some of us may get $10 in the money at open tomorrow, depending on how the interest rate thing goes. So let's say we bought at the money when it was around 384. Tomorrow it opens up at, well, let's say we're going backwards, but let's say it goes $10 in our favor, 394. I know these are puts. Just go with me. $10 in our favor, 394. That means that now these options are worth $1,571, but we sell them over here on the bid side, don't we? So it's $1,566. So let's say $1,566 per contract minus what we paid, which was $1,078. That means we have a profit of $488. If we divide that by what we paid, that is a 45% return. Pretty good. Pretty good, right? No one would scoff at that. That's a pretty good deal. 52% if we did it at the money. $10 move. Now here's the thing that no one's going to tell you, but I will. Let's punt back here to the 20 delta. Way out of the money. 20 delta. In fact, this option will probably close and never go into the money. That's what this little brown line says. That the expected move will mean that this will never you have an excellent chance that this will never go in the money and it will expire worthless. Like, why would anybody ever do that? Well, because you don't need it to go into the money. You just need it to go up $10, right? Same $10. So let's say down here at the 20 delta, it moves $10. Costs a lot less, obviously. It's only $355. A $10 move means we could sell at 568. So let's say 568 minus 355 divided by 355. Wait, that's a 60% win. Well, the other one was what, 45? This is a 60% win for the same move. Huh? Well, that can't be right. Let's look at the 30 delta. Something's not right. Here's the 30 delta. Now, it's definitely going to go in the money before expiration. I mean, statistically, definitely may not stay there, but it'll definitely hit it. Let's look at this. Okay, $10 move means it would be up here. We'd have 914 at sale minus what we paid, which is this, 597 minus 597 leaves us with 319 divided by 597. Well, that's less. But it's more than we had at the money, but it's less than we had way down at the 20 delta. So is what we're saying we make more money per dollar move the further out of the money we go? Well, move for move, dollar for dollar, the answer is yes. Very, very much so. And worse. If you're in the money, let's say you're out here. Let's say you've made your move and you're feeling lucky, punk. And you're already $10 in and you're going to hold for another $10. Awesome. It's $21.89 minus $15.71 divided by $15.71. You're less than 40% on that move. You're losing income potential the further in the money you go. If you knew that price was going to continue down or in your favor, does it make any sense to hold your position deeper and deeper into the money? Because what's happening is you're losing leverage. Now, why do they do that? Well, the guy that created the option chain won a Nobel Prize because he realized so many ways that balance happened, and there may be no more fair system than the options chain in any market anywhere. I'm not saying how they price the underlying. I'm just saying on how options work. Because what you get as a benefit is the reduction of theta. So as you move further and further into the money, you get more and more theta. Theta moves less and less against you. And the further you go in the money, the better your pricing on getting your shares, if you wanted to buy them or sell them, at expiration. Now, none of you are probably wanting to, to exercise your option shares. You just want to make money with options. So none of these things really benefit you unless you're holding all the way to expiration. Theta moving against you is nice, but wouldn't you rather, if you knew price was going to continue to move in your favor, wouldn't you rather just get better leverage? If you're understanding what I'm saying, put a 1 in the chat box. If you're like, I don't get it, I'm lost, which very much easily could be, put a 0 in the chat box. Because what I'm going to show you, the secret is to how to solve this. I'm going to show you, but you got to be with me right now. If you're not with me, you're like, man, all this math. Put a 0 in the chat box, and I'll try to explain it another way. Regarding expiration dates, you cash in an option on its expiration date, or should you sell before the expiration date? Rolando, that is an excellent, excellent question. It really depends on your strategy. If you're looking to buy shares, my strategy is always selling puts somewhat out of the money and letting them expire as long as the price hasn't moved in the money, and as long as the price hasn't moved too far against me, I'll actually get the shares on sale. And if it doesn't move against me, I get to keep all the money that I collected, right? If it stays out of the money, because it'll expire worthless. If you're buying calls and it goes into the money, that can also be a situation where you get to keep the money that you collect well, actually you don't get to keep it. You had to spend it. But it's usually the chances are okay that you'll make money if it goes into the money, because you'll keep the money difference here from what you paid to what it's worth, and then you get to buy the shares at this reduced value, which is usually a good deal, because someone has to sell you the shares on the call side. I don't recommend it, because when you get to the end of that options expiration cycle, there's a thing called gamma, which could really cause you trouble on how these are valued. And of course, if you're doing the call purchase, if it ticks 1 penny out of the money, you lose it all. All of it's gone. 100% loss. So on the sell side, it's a lot safer if you wanted to buy shares to take it all the way to expiration. Otherwise, yeah, going to expiration ain't so good. Okay, Kimberly and Rolando get it. Rolando, I know you understand. Rolando, you don't understand. Oh, well, what's missing, Rolando? I'm looking here on Facebook. Thank you, Rolando. That's very kind. Oh, we're going to get some Facebook eternity here. Oh, it's new comments. Hold on. I hate that it does this. Why can't I see new comments? Rolando, I'm just going to put the Zoom link in here. Legacy ascending mark. Just hop on Zoom and ask the question, because for some reason I'm not seeing. Oh, there we go. I'm following and pushing for those who don't know how to ask questions. Okay, there. Now it's showing me. But yeah, just hop in if you have another question. Copy. Here we go. Here's how we solve it. Now this just happened to me with Riot. I'm going to show you what I did with Riot. But let's say you're in SPY and you're swinging. Now you're day trading. Psh, nobody cares. Take your profits, get out. Don't do this. Take your profits, get out. If you're down here past the 60 delta on a day trade, you're an idiot. You're a hog. Take your profits, get out. Don't be hoggish. If you're below the 55 delta, get out. Take your profits. Don't be a hog. Day traders. Swing traders, different. Because we could wake up tomorrow. You could have bought a 384 put at close today, and we could end up at 390, You could end up at a 55 delta tomorrow, or a 57 or a 60 delta if the interest rate thing doesn't go right. And you know what I'm talking about. We could dip 10 points tomorrow. You could be down in the 60 deltas. You could be up $500 per contract. Of course, it could go the other way. So there's nothing for that. And you might say, you know what, it's going to keep going down for the rest of the week. That's on you. But here's my suggestion. What I do, because I don't want the price to keep going further and further and further into the money where I lose more and more and more leverage. So if it gets down to like the 52, like 3 strikes in the money, I will take my profits. I will close this position. I'm a winner. Also, it's unlikely that on SPY in particular, for a swing, I would have bought at the money because there's very little leverage here compared to the leverage that I have down here. Some of you will say, well, yeah, but there's a lot more possibility that there's theta because of the leverage is also working against you harder. And all right, T, and also the prices don't move as quickly. Yes, but dollar for dollar, they do. If this moves $10, it doesn't matter. The leverage still moves. It may not move as quickly second to second, but honestly, we don't care as long as the price, the underlying price, is moving in our favor. But let's say we didn't. Let's say we bought out the money like most people do. You spent $1,078. It goes into the money, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 strikes. You're here about the 55 delta. You are up almost $200. I would liquidate this position. You've collected $200. I would then put another position in here. At this point, the at the money would be, well, probably up here. It'll still be the same, roughly the same price. It'll be about $1,000, maybe $1,100. But I've collected my $200, and now I'm putting a new position in here, out of the money, or even at the money, if that's your thing. Because now I've reset the geometric curve of leverage. I'm not just continually losing it. Now, if I believe it's going to continue, I'm going to liquidate this position. I said, you know what? It's going to go down another $4. I'm going to put it right back here, and I'm going to collect more leverage in doing so. Now, quite frankly, if you were like, hey, listen, I know it's going to go down $4 more, shoot, I'd go $4 this way. Now, instead of spending $700, $1,100, I'm only going to spend $950-ish. And then when it moves up to this point, I've made quite a bit better situation. But once again, it gets down to this 50-55 zone here. I'm just losing leverage. I'm going to liquidate and come back. Liquidate and bring it back and get that, capture that leverage. Now, for me, unless there's very few strikes, as in the case of Riot, I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go back here. Maybe the 30 delta or the 20. Because look what happens. For me to double the geometric curve of leverage, which would mean the delta has to double. So for every dollar here at the 10 delta, for every dollar SPY moves in my favor, I get $10, then 11, then 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, until I get to the 20. I've doubled my income per dollar of underlying motion. Hopefully you guys understand that. For me to double my income per dollar, 344 to 360, that's $16. It only takes me $16, 15 really. From the 10 delta at 344 to the 359 is the 20 delta. But to go from the 20 delta to the 40 delta, that's 359 to 378, that's almost 20. So to double, start that geometric curve on its best part, not this part. This part ain't that great. We're already there. We want to start it here and then get there. If we start when it's already going vertical in our favor, all right, great. But we had to spend a premium to do that. But if we spend it down here, we get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7x. And that's what we want to see. So if I'm in here 4 or 5 strikes in, I'm going to close these positions. I'm going to punt back to the 30 delta, the 40 delta. Some of you even going to this at the money would be at an advantage. But I go back here because if I know it's going to go $4, what's my budget? Well, my budget per contract was about $1,100, wasn't it? That's what this cost. I got in one. It moved down. I made 250 bucks or so, or 200 bucks. Great. Then I'm going to go back here. I got 1,200 bucks. How many contracts can I buy at the 30 delta? Two. Two contracts now. And now if it goes up $4 to about here, yes, that's only $100. But it's another, because it's two contracts, it's actually more than that. I actually make 240. Whereas if I'd just gone back to at the money, I'd only made 200. That's another, you're like, well, that's not very much. Dude, that's 20% more. That's the power of leverage. I'm just saying be careful about letting your positions, and some of you are going to be deep in the money tomorrow when we wake up. You're going to go, yay, and you're going to leave it. And I'm going to say you're leaving money on the table. Close it. Start up again if you believe it's going to continue down. Now, if you're like, oh, listen, it's going to bounce, dead cat bounce, okay, well then obviously stay out, let it bounce. But then consider, not telling you to do anything, I'm just the bald white guy. Consider instead of buying this one, buy that one. Double. You'll have more leverage if you think it's going in your favor. And you may get up to 20% benefit for doing so. Let's look at Riot. Ryota. Is this making sense? Yeah, Rolando. I appreciate you, brother. Let's look at Riot. I've got some October's puts, and I've got some November puts. They are, the Octobers aren't in the money yet, but the Novembers are. In fact, let's just look at the November. There's not a lot of strikes, y'all. Not a lot of strikes. I've got some in the money already, which is nice because I bought them when they were like 60 cents, so they're definitely up. I will probably liquidate them tomorrow if they move down a couple strikes in. Why? Well, because there's so few strikes here. Look at the difference in the delta between this first strike in the money and the second. It's almost 12 points. So $7, you know, if the price opens up tomorrow at 550, I'm not saying it will, but if it did, I'm liquidating and I'm buying some more 5s or 4s because this is going to go to 60 delta and I'm losing so much leverage as we continue down. I'm not saying what it will do. I'm just saying what I will do given the circumstances. If we wake up tomorrow and at 8:30, this is at $5 or even at 550, everything I have in the money is going to get liquidated and repositioned if I believe it's going to continue down. Repositioned out of the money. What are the chances of Riot going below 5 in the next week? I think it's better than 50-50, me personally. I mean, look at the IV. It's up there. So these are expensive right now. Not as expensive as they could be, but they could get more expensive, which is what we like. Also, let's look at the, oops. Don't do that. I know it's my fault. There you go. Open interest. Where are we at? There's 1,000 here. Silly Zoom. There's 1,000 here, so there's a lot of people think we're going to head back up to 7. Well, good for them. A lot of people think we're going to 8. A lot of people think we're going to 3. Ooh, that would hurt, wouldn't it? How many of you think Bitcoin's going to 10,000? Well, that might take Riot down to about 3. It might. We don't know. The point being, it doesn't matter what the price does. You got to know where your stop outs are. But we also need to know how to make leverage. So if it were to open tomorrow down here and all of a sudden my 7 went to 55 delta or more, I'm going to liquidate and reposition out of the money in a 5, maybe a 4. Because now, look at the difference here. Let's say I bought at 67 cents. I can sell, this will probably be $2. That means I'm up almost 160%. I can deploy that money 160% or $140, let's say, per contract. At 60 cents, I can buy 2 contracts because the 4 will look like 67 cents. I can buy 2 contracts for what the one I had here. And if it moves up another $1, I've doubled my income of what would have been had I just left these in and meander down like so, deep into the money, into the high deltas. That's how I manage whenever I buy, and I don't buy swings very often. Unless it's seasonal, it's full moon, it's Mercury retrograde. I'm like, you know what? The whole market's going to probably do X. Then I'm going to go and buy, these are expirations way down there, 60 days later. All right. So, and by the way, 60 days to 45 days is kind of that no man's land where theta does not continue to move down. It stays flat for those 15 days. So if you want to buy options, 60 to 45 days is your best bet to beat theta decay because it's going at a linear curve. Now, once it hits 45 days, it starts moving against you geometrically again. Before 60 days, it's very, very slight, but it's still on a curve. But it's another little 1% trader that'll give you a little bit of an edge, 1 or 2% a year, if you buy your options swinging-wise between 60 and 45 days. All right, y'all, any questions about what we're talking about? Hopefully this helps you in the days to come as we get very, very volatile in all markets. In fact, where are we at now? Bitcoin is now below 18.9, which is not that surprising. Ethereum is hovering around its 13.25. So, and aftermarket, the SPY isn't doing very much. So we'll see what happens. It's all about the news coming out tomorrow and the next few days. So any questions at all, y'all? Again, if you want to come join us and get your funding, let's talk. 685 credit or better, or you want to come join us and help sell real estate, wholesale real estate, get 1% of every position that you close. We've got right now a $4.7 million apartment complex in Texas outside of Houston that's being looked at, and if it closes, the folks that connected that would get 1%, which is a clean $47,000. And that could be yours if you were to help get that closed. So that's what we're offering in the wholesale department. Anyway. All right, y'all. Thanks for this little pop-up and coming and joining me. Post in the Facebook if you have any questions. You want to reach out. That's awesome. We have a Legacy Ascending Discovery call again on Thursday night. I think we're going to have some very exciting news about new Shopify opportunities, new real estate opportunities, what else? Amazon store opportunities we're working out. It's pretty cool, y'all. All right. Thank you. We'll talk soon.